Hello? Hello? Thing. Hello? Hello? There we go. Mic is there. Live streaming. Right. Hey everyone. Heads up, we're gonna start a breakout in about like T minus 33 seconds. So get hyped. Yes. Yeah, we're very precise here. Yeah. I've got to switch to the right page. And it takes me a while to find it. No, it's okay. I mean, now it's T minus 46, but yeah. Okay. Oh no, everybody. Sick. 33 seconds, I guess, already passed. Sup, everyone? How's your day going? Pretty good? Woo, nice. That's good to hear. So welcome to the week 1, day 2 breakout. Fun fact, this is my first time doing this one too, so we're both kind of new to all of this. Hey? I've toyed around with a couple different ideas for how I'm gonna go through this breakout. Spoiler, it's on JavaScript. But let's see. Let's start some notes. We're gonna put this in the right place. Scope. Call this readme. What? Readme. .md. Okay. So that didn't really save itself, eh? Okay. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do some JavaScript stuff, but I also want you to pay attention to how I use Git. As I build up like the examples that we're working with, I'll just make a point of hopping into Git and doing things, right? I mean, it's not a big part of the breakout, but I just want you to see that it's a thing. Readme.md. Cool. All right, so I have this folder called scope, right? That's where we're gonna do all our stuff today. Right now, I have a file called readme, right? And if I was to hop into my terminal, I could navigate to that place. So I happen to have it in a place called Lighthouse Labs Breakouts, specifically in a thing called scope. Okay. Wait, actually, you know what? Let me move it out of here because I'm actually already inside of a thing. You hop into Finder, Lighthouse Labs, Breakouts, Scope. I'm gonna be silly and just put it right into my desktop. I don't recommend you do that, but so I go to my desktop and I happen to have a thing called scope that right now I'm inside a scope and all I have is readme.md, right? Yes?
Hey, before, is that a feature of this editor you're using that's on master?
Yes, yeah, that's why I wanted to hop out of that. So if you noticed, some of the folders that I go into, like if I go into, I happen to have one called Lighthouse Labs Breakout. I happen to be working inside of a folder that is a Git repo, and I have set up my terminal to say that I am in a Git repo, right? That's just something that I have set up on mine, right? So you would not see this. You would see something more along the lines of this. Whoops, let me zoom, like nothing. Right? All you would see is like your username, most likely, right? But I hacked it, right? I can show you that a bit later, but it's outside of the scope of the thing. So I have the scope folder right now where all I have is readme.md. I'm gonna make sure that that's the thing that I'm opening up in Sublime as well, by the way. So desktop scope. Cool. readme.md. And right now there's nothing in it, but if I wanted to be a good developer, I would do something like, hey, let's make this a Git folder. Git, what was the command for initiating a Git repo? Init. Git init. Initialized empty Git repository. Awesome. Let's check out the status of my repo. Right? I ran git status. No commits yet. But there's some untracked files. Let me track those changes. Git add -a to, you know, follow everything. Git status. All right, new file. I'll git commit initiated with an empty readme. Cool. Just add a little message for myself, right? And now I have a little bit of history. So in the end, like as I do all my commits, I'm going to push this to a repo eventually, and you can go through and you can see how the lecture kind of evolved over time. Right. So readme.md, week 1, day 2. Today is about scope. Let's not take my word for it. Let's see what the what Compass says. Week 1, day 2, we're talking about reading code and scopes. We're looking at reading some pre-written code, right, in our head, and we're also going to talk about how scope works, right? Those are the two things that we're going to work on, and then here are the secret teacher notes that you don't get to see, that I will kind of like reveal to you as we kind of go along. So let's talk about this part. Reading and evaluating pre-written code in our head, right? I'm going to throw some examples at you, right? I'm going to throw some examples at you, and I want you to you know, shout back what the stuff does. So heads up, today will be sort of like an interactive breakout, right? I'll need you for this, otherwise it's not going to go anywhere. So first part is reading some code. And 2, let's talk about scope. Cool. So let me make a file. Let me make a file, and in this file I'm going to write some JavaScript. So I made a new file by one command N, and now I'm saving it by command S. It's going to ask me what I want to call it. Let's do read code example.js. Right? So that's what I'm going to name it today, and we're going to save. Cool. So let's read some code. Everybody close your eyes for like 10 seconds, or don't. Yes, thank you for playing along. So okay, all right, you can open up your eyes. Oh, people actually did it. That's awesome. Look at all the power I command. All right, so let's read this code. If you were a program, right? If you were the JavaScript interpreter, what happens? What happens when you write this code out? What's the first thing that gets printed out? Hello. And what's the second thing that gets printed out? What's the third thing that gets printed out? Well, yeah, there's nothing. It's done, right? A trick question. But what if I did this? All right. What's the first thing that gets printed out? What's the second thing that gets printed out? Look at that. I can't stump you guys. What if I did this over here? What up and then hello. Awesome. All right. So we're starting to see the way that we read this stuff is not necessarily linear, right? Like I know that this what up function exists. Now let's make this a little bit more complicated. All right, so you're going to say what up, and then in here maybe I'll call another function called goodbye, right? Which means I need to have a function called goodbye, which console.logs goodbye. So I got what up, I've got hello, and then I'm going to console log okay. Oh, I just messed this whole thing up. What's the first thing that gets printed out? See, I didn't sense like a lot of commitment to that answer. What's the first thing that gets printed out? Goodbye. So let's follow it. We've got a function called what up. We've got a function called goodbye. We're calling the function called what up. Just means we go into here. And then that takes us into the function called goodbye. So we go to goodbye, and yes, it does console log goodbye. Awesome. What happens next? What up, right? Yeah, so since the last thing we did was this thing called goodbye, this thing ends. And now I know I'm rushing through this, so we're going to go through this a little bit slower in a sec. But this ends, so we go into console log what up. Awesome. Now the what up function is done, and what happens next? Now we console log hello. Now, I jumped kind of like all over the place here, and luckily today we're not streaming to Calgary. Not because, wow, that's not, these are not wheels. Yeah, the other board that we use has wheels on it, so unless, did we take wheels off of this board? Who cares? Here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna talk about the call stack. The call stack. So if you can't see very well, maybe settle in a little bit. I'm gonna pick the green. Does this look like a washable pen? Dry erase marker. Yeah, this one's also. All right, so I'm gonna pick green. Let me know if it's not very visible. I'm gonna erase the welcome to Lighthouse Labs. Cool. So let's get a visual representation of kind of what's going on up there. Green, green. Okay, so there's a function called what up. So if I'm the computer program and I'm reading this, I tell myself, hey, that's good news. I now know that there's a function called what up. How about I store this somewhere? How about I put this on in a place where I can refer to it back later? You make a big ol' thing like that, right? So the function what up, I'll put this right here. Like I know about what up. I know about what up down here. I know that's teeny, but take my word for it. I'll do the same thing with goodbye. I know about goodbye, right? Goodbye exists, so I'll put this over here and I'll say I know about goodbye, right? These are two functions, right? But the thing is, at any point from now on, if somebody says hello, somebody says what up or goodbye, I know that those things exist because they live on my stack, right? And then I can go in and I can see what they do, right? But right now they just live here. And then we'll hop over into this line here that says, hey, call what up, right? Call what up. Calling what up puts me into a new world. A new world where I do things in here, right? Inside of what up, I'm calling goodbye, which puts me into another new world on top of here, right? And eventually we pop ourselves back off, right? I'm going to come back to the board in a minute, right? We're going to make some changes over there, right? But I want you to see that as things get called, they get put onto the stack, and as they finish being called, they get taken off of the stack, taken off, right? Try to really visualize this stuff and things will start making a little bit of sense. Now, this example is not finished yet. We're going to come back to this. So I'm going to leave this as it is right now. Let's see. Let's talk about variables. There are currently no variables in here, right? There are some strings. There are some strings, but there are no variables. I'm going to code a little bit blind here, right? I'm just throwing words into things, right? And we're going to explore what happens. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what's going to happen, right? I'll go var name equals Janet. Name equals Janet. And I'm going to throw what up name over here. So when what up with the name pops up, right, what do we think happens? What up Janet, right? What if I have something like, I put my own name in there. What am I getting now? Nima. Now, I should not have done that. Snap. I got to look at Jeremy's face, and he spooked me. I did something wrong. Yeah. Let's hop into a thing called Python Tutor. Damn it, Janet. I've got a thing called Python Tutor over here. Right? the execution of your JavaScript code, right, is something that can sometimes be a little bit hard to identify, right? If you notice, like, I haven't actually run any of the code that we've written, right? But with JavaScript tutor, which I will give you a link to in a minute, what we get to do is we get to write some code and then we get to watch it as it gets executed, right? So if I was to write some code like, I should have copied that, one sec. Hello, and then maybe I make a for loop. So for var I equals 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus. In here, maybe I call a function that says, what up? And then I happen to have a function called what up over here. And this one console logs what up. Right? You're going to see that things step through bit by bit at a time, right? So JavaScript tutor, which again I will give you a link to, is going to give us like a visual way of seeing the execution, which can be helpful. So here we are. It starts off at console log hello. And then we go next, forward, right? It hops into the for loop, right? So we've got the output right here at console log hello. And I go forward, right? And forward. And now it's in what up. So from what up, it's going to hop into that function where it console logs what up, right? So from here, so the green is showing you, the green line is showing you the line that has just executed, and the red shows you the line that is next to execute. I should have explained that. You go forward. And you can see the code just kind of hop through, right? What's actually going on, right? Now this might be code that maybe some of you are already like good at identifying the path of, or some of you aren't. I think it's always worthwhile to sit down and really trace the execution of your program, right? This is a place where, you know, sure, I've said it's looping over 10 times, but let's make sure that that's actually happening, right? You'll also notice that as I'm clicking forward, right, there's this thing called the frames over here on the left-hand side, right? Or sorry, on the right-hand side. That's going to show me what the different values of things are, right? For example, what up is currently this function, right? So let's look over there for a second. Remember when I said I know that function exists, right? That's what I mean. That the value of that function, like what is that function, gets saved somewhere, so that when it sees what up, it knows that it means this code, right? And the value of I right now, which is the thing I'm looping with, right? The thing that I'm looping with, that is currently 4. And if I keep clicking forward, I might change. Now it's 5. And I keep clicking forward. And now it's 7. Right? I just clicked a whole bunch. I can do the same thing backwards, which is awesome. Right? And forwards. And this is cool. You can scrub back and forth with this thing anyways. Right? So I would suggest, I highly suggest, that the code that you're writing, right? Because a lot of the assignments that you're going to be doing at the beginning are all one file, right? One file long. Toss them into something like JavaScript tutor, right? And check to see if the code is doing what you say it's doing, right? There is usually, usually when there's bugs in our code, right? Let's say like I get an assistance request and I'll come over and help. The person who requests the assistance request will usually say something along the lines of, my code's not doing what it, what it's supposed to do, right? My code's not doing what I told it to do. And that's where I stop and I say, no, like the code is doing exactly what you told it to do. You probably just told it to do the wrong thing, right? So identify the problems maybe with what your understanding of the situation is, right? And see how that's turning into code over time, okay? So we're going to play a little bit more with JavaScript tutor in a little bit. But what I wanted to try out was crowdsourcing some code. So let's see. There are a couple things that we can do. We could make new functions. I shouldn't have undone that. Let me save this and I'll do a new one. So I said I would use git status I've made some changes to the README file, and I've made some changes to that example, so I'm just going to add all of that and go first code reading example. Cool. Nice. So let me make a new file real quick. I'm going to call this one crowdsourced code.js. And I've never tried this before, so it might be a disaster. Like, bear with me. Let's say that there's a couple different things that we can do. We can create new functions, create new variables. What else can we do? We can make a loop. We've talked about conditions already, right? Right. Let's do make a condition. Cool. Here are 4 things. Oh, and console log something. Console log something, and call a function. How many tables do we have? We have 6 tables, sort of. Awesome. Okay, so I'll assign each table to a specific possible action, right? And we'll just kind of randomly select things. So you will be creating new functions. You will be creating new variables. That's making a loop, making a condition. Back there is console log something, and back there is call a function, right? All right. So I'm going to need a volunteer. All right. OK. How about the last person to put up their hands is the volunteer? Hey, yeah, see, there we go. I saw you over there. I didn't actually, but I'm just going to pick you. So your table is which thing? Make a loop. So let's make a loop. 4. Can you pick a number? So 8. So while I is less than 8, let's pick another number too. OK. What's that? Yeah. So do you know what this last part here is for? Yeah, how much you're incrementing by. So you could increment by I++, or you could increment, you want to pick 1, 2, or 3? Just 2. So I equals I plus 2, right? So here, this for loop is funky because we're not just increasing I by 1 every time, we're increasing it by 2, right? I'm just trying to throw a little bit of salt into the mix. OK, cool. So we got a for loop. Who had a birthday in the past 2 weeks? Who had a birthday in the past 3 weeks? OK, who has a birthday coming up from now until the rest of the year? All right, cool. So your table is creating new variables. Give me a name for variable.
Dinosaur.
All right, so var dinosaur, right, equals, and then a dinosaur. T-Rex. Awesome. So we got a T-Rex. And let's pick another thing. Who here is over the age of 8? OK, cool. Wow, there's some young people here. I'm going to pick somebody from that table over there. Yes, the people looking behind your table. All right. So we are going to make a condition. Let's pick a condition. What are we checking for? Just randomly. If this code, it's not going to matter. Like it's going to be fine. I'll edit it to make it work. OK, if volunteers equals true, right? If volunteers equals true, then we're going to do something. I'm gonna roll the ball a little bit here. Let's call increase dinosaur count. Right? I've made a function called increase dinosaur count. And it is going to say dinosaur count plus, right? I'm just writing random code, right? I apparently need a thing called dinosaur count because I've said I'm increasing it. So let's put dinosaur count plus. That means I should start it at something. Right? Now, what I want you to see is that I have no idea what this code does. Right? I have no idea. We've crowdsourced a big chunk of this code. But I could start maybe trying to figure out what it does. Does it do something useful? I don't know. I'm not console logging anything. So does somebody want to pick a number between 12 and 25? What's that? 14. So we're going to go to 4. That was one of the ones I shouldn't have. Okay, we're going to make it right here. Console.log, and we'll console log the value of I. Okay. Increase dinosaur count. Let's also console.log the dinosaur count here, whatever it currently is, and I need a thing called volunteers. I'm going to start it off at true. Okay, so there's just some random code, and I could, if I wanted to, try to read it out on my own, or I could take it and I could put it inside of something like JavaScript Tutor. Right? I could put it in here and say, okay, show me what this big old beast of code does. Right? Let's visualize the execution. Dinosaur count is 0. Let's go forward. Right? Volunteers is true. We got a for loop. It takes us into console logging whatever I is. Right? We get a good old 0. Maybe started off at 0. And as I click forward, I get to if volunteers equals true. Am I going to hit this condition or not? Probably. Let's see. I mean, I could check to see here. It says volunteers is true, right? On the stack, right? So I know I haven't gone back to the board yet, but imagine that each of these values, as they're being introduced, gets put onto the stack, right? Volunteers is true. Let's increase the dinosaur count. That hops us into increasing the dinosaur count, right? And then where does this take us next? It says, go back to this thing here. Oh, no, sorry. From here, this is what's going to run. So the dinosaur count has increased. It used to be 0, now it's 1. And now I go forward. It takes me to console logging the dinosaur count. Right? Let's go forward. Console logged 1. Right? Now, see, I can start to see the web of execution that I'm going through. Right? There's a good old web. Now, something I haven't really talked about so far is scope. Because really at any point here, like dinosaur is in here. When we talk about dinosaur count, we're talking about some value out here, right? It's not super confusing just yet, right? Just yet. Let's make some weirder examples. Crowds. Are there any questions about this so far? I know there might be things that aren't that clear yet, but we're all good? Awesome. So let me just save dinosaur count here. Git add a, I check my status. It's a new file. Git commit a silly dinosaur example. Okay. Let's make a new one. Here I'm going to work with functions specifically, right? I'm going to talk about functions and the parameters that they take. Okay, I'm going to call this one functions.js. Let me make a variable called best friend. Right. So a variable called best friend, and my best friend is, I don't know, I have like 6 friends. Hussein's my best friend today. Right. So Hussein is my best friend right now. And let me make a function called getInFightWith, right? I'm going to say getInFightWith best friend. Or, you know what, I'm going to evolve into this example actually. Let's do something more like just say best friend name. Say best friend name, and it takes the name of the best friend. Okay? And in here I go console.log best friend. Okay. If I was to call say best friend name, it should come to no surprise that I get out the name Hussein. Okay? So I get Hussein out. But what's interesting is this. This thing is called best friend out here. Right? This thing over here is called best friend. And so is this thing over here. Right? So when I talk about best friend in here, what I'm talking about on this line is the best friend that is passed to me as a function over here, right, in the parameter. Oh, whoops, I forgot to do that. Okay. This thing here is the name of the argument that's being passed in, or the parameter that's being passed in. Is not necessarily this thing over here, right? These two words are detached. Let me just run this real quick. I'm going to put it inside of Python tutor, JavaScript tutor. I'm just going to run this. So best friend is Hussein. If I step forward, my best friend is, best friend is Hussein. I'm going to step forward a bit more. Console log, best friend, Hussein, probably. So I should get Hussein out in the output, and there we go, right? And now we step forward, and we get nothing. We're done, right? There's no more steps. If I was to change the words here, to something else, is that some like intelligible piece of text? No, it's not. Is there any sort of relationship between this and the word best friend? No. But these two things right here are the same. Okay? I want you to see that, the consistency between what's going in here and what's being used over there. Right? If I was to run this code right now in JavaScript tutor, right? If I was to run that code, we'll visualize the execution, right? As I go through, so I've gone, best friend is Hussein. I'm about to hop into say best friend, right? And as I hop into say best friend's name, this happens, right? I have a new variable called lookufsthevishta, right? New variable. Forward. That variable is Hussein. So if I try to console log it, I get Hussein out. And then I go forward. And what do we notice about the thing here? Is lookuvsh still there? No, it's not there. It has disappeared, right? So it only ever existed while we were talking about the context of this function, right? While we were talking about the context of this function. So with that in mind, what if I did something like that? What gets printed out if I was to run this? Does anybody have any clue? Just hazard a guess. It's insane, because we're talking about the best friend, right? Talking about the best friend. Right? The value of the thing here needs to match the value on the outside. Otherwise, it's talking about something that lives outside, right? Talking about something that lives outside of the scope of this one function, right? And things might happen. Like I might have best friend changed in here. The new best friend is Luann, right? So now, sure, I'm console logging Hussein, but maybe if I was to run the function more than once, so let me just remove Janet from the mix, right? The next time that I run this, the best friend is Luann, right? Now, I don't want you to take my word for it. We're going to put it into JavaScript tutor real quick, and we're going to take a good look at the code before I run it. So I've said I start off with best friend equals Hussein. I'm going to say the best friend's name, console log best friend, right? And then I'm saying the best friend is now Luann. So if I ever call this function again, right, when I try to console log my best friend, it's probably going to be Luann, right? Let's run this. Visualize execution, right? I'm going to step forward. My best friend is Hussein, right? Say best friend name, Hussein. Now best friend is Luann. Oh no, right? How did Luann sneak in and take the best friend position, right? Say best friend name, what do I get out now? That's sneaky Luann, right? I'm seeing I caused some kind of side effect in the code here, right? So that's something to watch out for as you look at the execution of some code. Is it changing the value of a variable outside, right? That's something to think about, right? We can have variables inside of functions. We can have variables outside of functions, right? Now, we don't usually take breaks in breakouts, but there was something I wanted to set up real quick. I forgot to set up. So if you could take like a 3-minute break, or probably a little less, I'm just going to set something up and we're going to continue. Pretty good. I'm just taking a short break to set something up, and then we're going to continue. Yeah. I just didn't want to make them watch me write, like.
Watch you lesson plan?
Well, no, there was something new that I wanted to put in.
Are you injecting actual news into your?
Yeah, I'm in. All right. It's all set up as soon as I plug in. Cool, cool. I decided I wanted to use an example. I just had to go look for it and paste it in. This is the example from the secret teacher notes. I like letting you know that I have access to things that you don't, not because I want you to think that I'm superior, but because I want you to know that I'm not pulling a lot of this stuff out of thin air, right? Plus, you get this stuff in the notes anyways. So we've talked about how to read code, right? Sort of. And this is something that I really, really suggest you do, right? Before you even run code, imagine, like hypothesize, what is this code going to do, right? When you start having lectures with KV, that's something that KV is going to do a lot. I don't know if have you all met KV yet? Awesome. So KV really likes doing test-driven development during his lectures. I'm not going to talk about exactly what that is, but the basic idea is that he'll write a little bit of code, and then he'll ask you all, what does this code do, right? And once we've made a hypothesis, then he'll run the code, and he'll verify whether it does or doesn't do what you thought it would do, right? That's like a loose kind of description of what's going on. So we looked at that. We're also talking a little bit about the scope chain, right? The scope chain. We've looked a little bit about this at the stack, and I'm going to do 2 more examples to really drive that home. We've done functions declared, right, with the function call inside of it, right? So if we were to look at the example that we had here for, let's look at even is my original read code example. I had a function that had another function call inside of it. So that's something that we can like follow along with now. And then we're going to talk about using var right now. We're going to talk about using var. So let me paste in, let me do this in here. Has anybody ever right-clicked on a page before? Right. Do we know about inspect? Cool. And if we click on inspect, it takes us to the tools, one of which is the console. If I come do like the, what do you call it, the assistance requests for you, right? You're gonna find that like a lot of the time I will hop into the console on your browser, right? Part of the reason for why I like doing this is because I like the colors that it gives me. If I write var, it turns purple. I like that. And it's a place where I can immediately run things, right? So let me make a variable called name. And the name is going to be, does anybody know any names here? Joel? All right, Joel is a name. That's a good name. Here's Joel. Let me make a function called say hi. You notice that like a lot of my examples involve me kind of just saying hello and goodbye to people. I say hello to a lot of people. So say hi. And oh hey, how you doing? In here, let me say something like console.log, whatever the name is, but before it, I'm gonna say hi, and then the name. Okay? So I'm console logging the name. If I was to run say hi right now, right? We have seen that this is what it does, so I am expecting it to print out hello Joel, right, or hi Joel. And I get hi Joel, which is fine. Now all of the code that I'm going to write in here, I'm going to move over into, actually let's do that right now. I'm going to go say hi.js. So we had var name equals Joel, and then I said function say hi that just returns or it console logs hi with the name. And this was giving us hi with Joel. Say I mess this up a little bit. Say hi to electric. No, I'm not going to do that. Say hi to. Okay. I might. We did this already. Assigning the value of the variable from the outside while I'm inside of the function, right? So if I was to run say hi to, right, I'm probably going to get Solomon, right? So I get hi Solomon. And we're going to run all of this inside of JavaScript Tutor in a minute. I get this. Now what's interesting is that if I was to run the normal say hi after this, what do I get? What's that? I got Solomon, right? I got Solomon because Sneaky Solomon, just like Luann earlier, has switched out the value of name, right? Because this name refers to this name up here. But, here's say hi 3, right? Say hi 3, and I've done something like var name equals Bobby. Okay? So I haven't run this yet, but what we're going to see is that in here, in this function, this name is not going to be this name over here, right? This name is going to be Bobby, right? And when I leave the function, Joel will have been left alone, right? Or whatever the value of it outside was will have been left alone, right? Before I run this code, right, I want to show you something cool about Sublime and about like code editors in general. If I click on a variable, right? Okay, I can't do this in here. Snap. Let me put this in the superior editor. No, it's an okay editor. I'm gonna put this in VS Code real quick. Okay. So I've just hopped into VS Code. When I click on variable names in VS Code, right, it will highlight all the instances of that variable, all the references to that variable. So right now, if I click on name over here, right, this is it. Name, I don't know why it's not highlighting this one up here, but it should be. But what's interesting about this is that this name and this name and this name, they're all the same, right? These three. But this name over here, when I click on it, it doesn't highlight the other ones, right? Because this lives inside of its own little world, right? Lives inside of its own little world. We're going to see that in the code in a minute. I'm going to copy all of this stuff, and I'm only going to run some of it in JavaScript tutor, and then we're going to talk about it. Where did I put tutor? There we go. Edit this code. Okay. So var name equals Joel. I want to, right now I'm just going to do this. Console log hi. And like there should be no real surprise. As I run this, what I get is hi Joel. Right? Hi Joel. I just wanted to kind of rush through that one. But if I instead run say hi to and then say hi, right? So I'm going to cut out say hi 3 real quick. Right? If I visualize the execution of this thing, and before I run it, let's just take a look at this code here. Name, say hi to. This one is reassigning the value of name. When I go forward, you're going to see that name starts off as Joel, right? Name is Joel. But as we move forward into say hi to, name is going to be reassigned to Solomon. Notice it didn't make a new one. It changed the current value of name, right? Forward. You keep going forward, and now name is Solomon, so when I go into console logging with say hi, I get Solomon out, right? The final piece of this is putting in say hi 3. Right? Let me just get rid of say hi 2 real quick just so it's nice and clean. So I'm calling say hi 3. Say hi 3 has the name Bobby in it, right? So I should be console logging Bobby at first. And then afterwards, I will be console logging Joel. Let's visualize the execution. Right? We're starting off. Let's go forward. So we've got name is Joel. And we go forward. Did something happen? Got ourselves a different frame. Got ourselves a different little world. Right? Different little world with a different little name. So now when I talk about name, it's going to be, wham, Bobby. And Joel is still there. Joel is still in memory somewhere, right? But right now we're just talking about Bobby. So if I go forward, now I'm console logging hi, Bobby. And what happens when I leave this function right now? It destroys the world. The world just gets destroyed. It's gone. There's no trace of it anymore, right? And I keep going forward, and it's going to console log hi, Joel, right? Are we following all of that? Cool. So if I was to write it out on the board, really what we would see is this global frame and the local frame that gets popped up. And that's what I meant over here when I say I enter a function, I create a whole new world. A whole new world, right? With new things. And when I leave that world, the world gets destroyed. Right? That is that's really the point of today's lecture, is like the impermanence of life and the world. No. So, cool. Are there any questions? Awesome. So we've made it to the end of the lecture. Congrats. I'm going to do this last commit here. Let's go into Git. Yes. I want to say they're the same thing, but let's check it. Let's see. Does anybody know the difference? Ah. Like tracked files? Yeah, okay. That could be it. Jeremy, do you want to weigh in? Does git add -a add all the files that you have staged before or that you're tracking, and git add dot add everything? Yeah? Man? Man git? Git help add. Wham. All right, so git help add. Oh, man. Let's see. -a. -a says update the index not only where the working tree has a file matching, but also where the index already has an entry. Right? This is important. The file is already being tracked before. Right? I'll tell you that dot is going to mean everything in the directory regardless. Right? except the git ignore stuff, right? So that's actually, I don't think we would even find that in the options, the dot, because that's not a flag being added to it. That's just a param. It's like a.
If you git add dot, what you're doing is the path spec is the current directory.
Mm-hmm.
So git add dot means git add this directory, just like if you wanted to add just everything inside one subdirectory,
Yeah.
you can say git add that subdirectory name.
Yeah, there you go. So to get from that, the dot, as you said, is the directory, like everything in the directory, right? And if you want to test that out, try things like open dot, right? Yeah? Oh, there you go, a little bit more. Stars. Oh, slam. Yeah, look at that. A little bit more complicated, right? The more you know. Yeah, cool. Thanks for that, and thanks. As you see, I don't always know everything, and it's good to like Google stuff. So thanks for bringing that up. Now I've learned. I'm going to go git add /a because that kind of hits everything that I want. And I'm a bad programmer. I've made 2 different changes, but I'm going to commit both of these changes. Git commit -m, and we're going to say here the say hi and the. What changes did I make to the? Oh, right. I pasted in a new, like a different thing that I didn't show you. So this is just another example that's going to do pretty much everything that we've done so far, right? But that I've taken from the teacher notes. So I leave this as an exercise to the student to play around with, right? You being the student. So I'm going to put it up on GitHub, just clone it, run it, see what happens. You can identify some things that are from the other place. So git commit, say hi with Joel and Solomon and Bobby, plus some extra stuff. Fun. There you go. So we got all of that. Now, I know I haven't written a lot of stuff in the notes, right? I will write some things in the notes really soon. I'm going to send you the notes, and you can play around with the stuff, right? In the meantime, if I don't send you the notes as soon as you'd want, like I should send them to you like almost immediately, right? But if you're like right now you want to see some stuff, you have access to previous lectures, right? So go check out the previous lectures if you want like a different take on things, right? So 3:55, I'm going to call the breakout in a sec. I'm going to say, like again, if you feel like you want a different spin on some concept, right? You always have access to the previous lectures. Go look at what happened a month ago, right? Different lectures have different styles, right? So with all that said, that's scope, that's the call stack, and that's reading code. Are we feeling good about it? Dope. Have a great rest of the day. I'm going to be around for like another couple hours. So if you have questions, I'm around. Dope. Thanks, everyone.